The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. If you have any follow-up on what we talked about yesterday with Bill Dale from Beach Buddies and Jerome Watts from Exo Technologies, talking about plastic in the oceans worldwide, plastic in the sea around the Isle of Man, plastic on our beaches, and interesting that Jerome was talking about this new material that could go on the leading edge of wind turbines and doesn't shed nanoplastics or microplastics. The whole question of microplastics is going to be the problem of our age. There's so much plastic in the ocean now, and lots of nanoplastics, which are getting into the food chain. There's no doubt about it. So any thoughts on that? But also, of course, we've had a real upheaval over the past few days in politics here. The Chief Minister is going to be considering who the next Health and Social Care Minister will be over the next few days, following the dramatic resignation of the former post holder, Laurie Hooper, MHK. Of course, Laurie is the leader of the Liberal Vannin Party. Laurie Hooper claimed the Council of Ministers were intent on privatising healthcare on the Isle of Man. Chief Minister said, never been mentioned. So who knows? Phil Gorn, Manx Radio's political correspondent, asked the Chief Minister whether it was something he was concerned about, the question of a vote of no confidence. Some people have talked about this. In fact, Albury Castle Town and Maloo MHK, Tim Glover, mentioned it specifically. But the Chief Minister...
I need to also take the responsibilities of ensuring that where I believe there is a real crisis point, that the issues around that are properly brought to the fore. And that's why I've had to raise this issue so publicly around Manx Care and the financial performance and the need for it to get back into budget and the reasons for that and the long-term consequences on our funding. So I have to take it within my stride. Clearly, the Health Minister is disenfranchised. He will do everything now possible to undermine and destabilise, because that's what the Liberal Vannin Party want, and some elements of the Labour Party. They want capital gains taxes, they want inheritance taxes, they want higher income taxes. My position is very clear, as is my colleagues within council, before we go anywhere down that route: efficient, effective delivery within budgets so that we understand what we can and can't pay for, and particularly we need to sort that out before the budget next year.
So there's a distraction and we just need to get on with the job. Is that pretty much your message? Absolutely.
It is a big issue. It is of national concern, but we now need to take the steps necessary, and that's really about providing the right financial support to Manx Care to get this problem resolved, get it resolved to the satisfaction of the Treasury Minister, so he can present his budget. And then, as I say, we need to make sure we've got the services that are being delivered properly within that budget. We understand what those services are. And then we can move on properly to understand if we want more services or increased delivery in some areas, how that might be appropriately funded. And of course, that's the wider challenge for Tynwald, but also it does involve the community's input into reaching any fundamental changes, because this is a whole island problem and it shouldn't just be stuck in an ideological box.
Any ideas who would be willing to take on the Department of Health and Social Care's challenges as the new minister?
I will consider that in the next 2 or 3 days. What I do need to do is get going with some of these issues in terms of addressing them. I've now seen this Kirby consultancy report about the position of Manx Care. I know some work has been going on, but we need action now, Phil. Not more reports, not more consultations. I need action with Manx Care in terms of this. We will work that together. I'm sure there are people in Manx Care and the Chief Executive Officer and the board who want to see this resolved as quickly as possible. We'll get that done. We'll get the budget prepared for next year. And also in the meantime, I'll be considering who supports from Tynwald members in terms of the department, who comes in as a minister, and how we also engage with Tynwald and the greater public where needed in terms of resolving any other issues, particularly around service delivery.
Aaron Michael MHK, your Chief Minister, Alfred Cannon MHK, talking about the situation. That was a fairly clear reference to the fact that, and it's fair to say that Liberal Mannin and the Manx Labour Party are left of centre. So Mr Cannon was referring to the fact that the left of centre parties, and obviously Lib Van and Labour are the only parties with MHKs, that it was left of centre parties who wanted to do this inheritance tax, put the tax burden up, basically end the Isle of Man's low tax status, really. And Mr Hooper's talked about it. On Mannin Line he's talked about it, about taxing people more. And not just the working population, but taxing high net worth people more. It would seem Mr Cannon thinks otherwise. Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Well, a better day for a royal visit than yesterday, I'd say.
Yeah, she obviously brings the weather with her. It was nice weather when she was at Tynwald Day a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know. I have to keep inviting her more often, I think. Just a quick one on the healthcare. It's kind of interesting to find out what the proportion of bureaucracy costs are for the health service over here. And, it just seems to be, the more we're shoveling money in there, the worse it's getting. I mean, a lot of people are saying this. It'd be quite interesting to compare it with, a similar-sized jurisdiction. And I know that we're a separate nation and all the rest of it, but just from a health spending point of view, compared to a similar sort of hospital catchment area thing, just see how they do. And also, of course, did I hear right a while ago that there's over 500 new applicants being brought over from across into the health service?
Didn't hear that. Where did you hear that? Was it on Manx Radio?
Yeah, I think it was on a Mannin Line, and I think somebody mentioned, people that are being brought to the island in this push for increasing the population.
Right.
I mean, it might be 500, it might be less, it might be more.
They're certainly under strength in some areas, and I know they sometimes struggle to find enough nursing staff, which is why we've been over-reliant on agency and bank staff, obviously paying a lot more for people doing those jobs. We'll see. I mean, as you say, it will be. But I mean, you heard the Chief Minister. He doesn't want any more reports. He doesn't want any more studies, or anything. He just wants to crack on with the job.
Well, yeah, and also, we suppose we need to look at upper management at Manx Care and whether we should even have Manx Care anymore, and whether we should just put it all back in the one box at the HSB.
Oh, crikey.
Move forward from there. But
how long would that take? If we got rid of Manx Care, what would happen then?
I don't know, but if we got, say, I don't know, June, Howard, Betty, we could get a few of them in. It'd be done in a week, okay. I reckon.
Anyway, that wasn't why you called.
Speaking of health, my conversation with Jerome Watts yesterday seemed to confirm the research that I've been doing. And I've got over 10 large studies and even web pages from the largest wind turbine manufacturers like Siemens Gamesa and Vestas, stating that wind turbine blade erosion is a major problem, which seems to go contrary to the statements from the consultancy that the Isle of Man government has chosen and we're paying for, Wardell Armstrong. Interestingly, if anyone looks for a YouTube channel called Amadeus IOM, so AMADEUSIOM, Amadeus IOM, a video was recorded 10 months ago called Wind Turbines on the Isle of Man, and it was a public meeting held at Russian Primary School in Port Erin, hosted by the Chief Minister and members of Wardell Armstrong and the MUA. Now, if you get that video up at some point and look at 2 hours and 8 minutes into the video, two representatives from the wind farm development were answering a question about microplastics. And I quote from what they've said from the video. Wardell Armstrong said things like, "I don't believe that the science that you're quoting about microplastics from wind farms is solid science. It definitely isn't. It's flawed science. There's no science to prove that this is the case." Another member said, "There's no evidence of significant quantities of microplastics coming from wind turbines. That's why wind turbines last 30 to 35 years. Which is an interesting statement to make, Andy, considering large-scale deployment of big turbines only started around 15 years ago with the big ones. And audited accounts from Ørsted and SSE Renewables, who are the big players in this in Scotland and the UK, are indicating that the wear on the turbines is getting worse as the turbine size gets bigger, necessitating removal and replacement at around year 12 to 15. And if you remember, some months ago, Siemens Gamesa, which is the wind turbine arm of Siemens, they had the largest warranty claim in history of any company at 1,000 million net loss, citing huge mechanical problems with blades, bearings, etc., etc. So big problems. But this raises a few questions from the conversation yesterday. If there's no problem with wind turbine blade microplastics, which is what Wardell Armstrong is saying, why am I looking at 10 big research papers, for example, from Department of Aerospace Technology at Bristol University, Department of Wind Energy at the Technical University of Denmark, the Hellenic Mediterranean University in Greece, and quite a few other ones? As I've said already, Siemens and Vestas, I quote from Vestas' website, leading edge erosion of wind turbine blades is a high priority topic for the wind industry. Another question, Isle of Man taxpayers, we've already paid almost £3 million in consultancy fees. So if Jerome and myself and these worldwide researchers are correct about microplastics laden with the toxic bisphenol A chemical that we talked about, what are the health implications for this? And if you think about it, the prevailing wind on the Isle of Man is from the southwest. So blowing the microplastics and nanoplastics in a northeasterly direction when the prevailing wind is going, Douglas and Onken are only 8 miles away as the crow flies. And we're not forgetting that those similar-sized sea spray particles in America were travelling 50 miles.
Well, yesterday, Jerome's was unequivocal, to be quite, wasn't he, about the fact that BPA and the fact that nanoplastics and microplastics do come from wind turbine blades, and also the fact that there's nowhere to recycle these things. They're just sitting in landfill. There are hundreds of them, the turbine blades, and as Mark said yesterday, a lot of them are made in China, and we could, if anything goes wrong with diplomatic relations with China, we could end up with wind turbines with 2 blades.
Well, Mark was absolutely bang on with that statement. I mean, that is highly important. And also, of course, national security, that the UK is hell-bent on going down the wind turbine. What happens if say we get a storm like 1987 and a load of wind turbines get smashed? And then, China's not very friendly with us at the time and say, oh, sorry, it's going to be 5 years before you can have a spare. And it begs the question. Jerome was mentioning his new composite coating business. Well, if Wardell Armstrong are right, there's no point in him doing it, is there? So, you've got that point of view that Wardell Armstrong are basically saying there's no problem with this, so why would Jerome even bother?
Well, the trouble is that it's like he was talking about asbestos. We don't know what we don't know. Years ago, everybody thought asbestos was the be-all and end-all because it was a shield against fires, and people used to play with asbestos. People used to jump up and down on asbestos roofs and what have you. I had a friend who used to work near an asbestos factory, and great balls of it used to come out like tumbleweed and go down the street, and people used to play with it. We didn't know what we didn't know, and it's the same now with microplastics. And that was really what yesterday was about. It is a huge problem. Plastic is a huge problem. And it was just interesting to hear what Bill Dale had to say about worldwide plastic and the plastic that we get on the Isle of Man, some of which comes from Dublin. Yeah.
I mean, on the asbestos thing, just a second, but, with the best will in the world, Jerome's composites, they're not going to be out, you're talking about football field-sized wind turbines, so you're looking at least 5 to 10 years of testing if he gets his thing to market with the best will in the world. But speaking from asbestos, at that wind farm meeting I mentioned earlier on that Amadeus IOM site, an audience member said to the wind panel farm, I'll quote this, "This is being recorded, so if you're lying, then this will be on your head." So it's funny you should say about asbestos, because a chap in the audience was thinking along those lines with those words coming out of his mouth.
Well, again, nobody knows at the moment. Wind turbines, which have been around, I mean, they've been around for 30 plus years. The big ones have been around for 30 plus years. So nobody quite knows how it's going to finish. What we do know is they do generate electricity at a rate. We do know that they do cost a lot of money. We do know that there's a hidden cost, and we do know they're not 100% effective. But at the moment, we seem to be nailing our colours to the wind turbine mast, Julian.
Yeah, but don't forget, though, the wind turbines are starting to encroach nearer and nearer to people living near them. And the Isle of Man, our scale, in my opinion, is too small for 3 to 5 gherkin building, that down at London, sat on a hill right in front of, 20,000 people? I mean, if you look at the likes of all of... And, it's not just us. When the prevailing wind's on, which is 53% of the year, it's going to be blowing directly in the direction of Douglas and Onken. Yeah. I mean, if you're up there, you can see Birch Hill from there. So, it's not very far away. And if the particles can go 50 miles, this NIMBY idea, well, you know what? I'm not so sure. The largest conurbation on the island is going to be right downwind of this thing.
Okay, all right. Appreciate that, Julian. Thanks for calling us today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
A note in from Pablo said, my father went to A&E on Monday morning, was admitted. When he was admitted, he finally got onto a ward last night at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock last night, 36 hours after being admitted. We can't complain about the treatment he received at the A&E staff, but that was amazing. But 36 hours onto a ward after being admitted. My husband called into the Peel police station yesterday to clarify which roads are closed for today, as his work van is parked and needs loading at Mill Road. The officer said she didn't know about the roads closing. My husband couldn't believe her reply. We find this bizarre, as the police have been all over the area that Princess Anne is visiting. By chance, I met an HSS delivery man bringing a 17-kilogram gas cylinder. It wasn't for me, and he said it's the last one. Last one? He said he told me 4 staff at HSS were given their notice on Tuesday and finished next Tuesday. Is this true? Is HSS finishing here? Who's going to be delivering gas? We're in the country, we're elderly. It's impossible for us to go to a garage to try and lift one into the car and to the house. A lot of folk like us are going to be stuck where there's no mains gas. Is this fact well known on the Isle of Man by the population, and what about the government? Do they know? We're trying to contact our MHK to see what they know about this situation. Can you make it public via the radio? More than happy to do that. We've got your contact details, but is this true that HSS are finishing on the Isle of Man, and there will be no more gas deliveries? Now, if you know anything about this, then please get in touch. We'd like to get to the bottom of it. Thank you, Gaz. Mr. Cannon's waking up to the need for proper leadership in health. He did previously promise to sort HR and break up the DOI, but we're not there yet. I think we should go with water turbines. We've got a sea around us and rivers as well in the Isle of Man, from James in Castletown. If Mr. Hooper's correct and Mr. Cannon wants to privatise the NHS, we need to know about it so we can get him out of office before it's too late. I don't quite know how you're going to do that. 502A. Mr. Hooper said that Mr. Cannon has said they want to privatise the NHS. I got a note in from Harry, who dropped a note in and said, it always interests me when people talk about our NHS being nationalised. We pay market rate for staff. We pay market rate for all our vehicles. We pay for our fuel. We pay for our food. We pay for uniforms. We pay for cleaners. We pay for everything in the health service. The only thing that's nationalised, says Harry, is the patient. The patient is nationalised. Everything else is bought and paid for. So, and remember, there are some things you do have to pay for. Prescriptions you have to pay for. go to an NHS dentist, and there are certain things you have to pay for. So what do we do? The question of privatisation is a wide one. I mean, privatisation, if people are using it in a pejorative sense, what would happen? If you ever travel to France, got to pay. You have to pay for a very good health service, but you have to pay. There's a certain element that's covered by state funding, taxpayer funding, of course. Same thing in Germany. Same thing in many, many places. So bearing in mind we're running into a brick wall with costs on Manx Care at the moment, what do we do? And I suggest you listen very, very carefully to all the replies that are given by politicians over the next couple of weeks. Text, email, call and WhatsApp on Mannin Line today. Eddie's with us now. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, Andy. All right, mate.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk about the national health, if I may.
Yeah, by all means.
Just before I do, Julian was on a short while ago, and he was on about the wind farms, and just in case we get massive storms, just remind everybody that I think it was about 5 weeks ago, 5 typhoon-proof wind farms blew down.
And where was that?
In China.
In China, okay.
Yeah, where they're supposed to be at the best. But anyway, on to the national health. If I may start by just giving you my date of birth, which is 17/11/48. A very significant year, wasn't it?
1948?
Yep.
Yeah, you were born.
Well, apart from that significance, it was also the year that the National Health was formed. Right?
Okay.
Would you believe I was born in the very first hospital, which is Davy Hume Park Hospital near Manchester.
Okay.
And it was opened by Nye Bevin. And throughout the years in my lifetime, I have heard so many statements saying it was one of the most important things that was ever done by the government. So important. In my lifetime, right, 40 years of working and paying national insurance, never once did I, or any, probably the majority of people in the country, ever grumble whenever the government put the insurance up, because we know how important it is. This government that we've got at the moment seem to be frightened of actually putting it up. They've neglected putting it up at the right pace for years and years. There is no problem in asking the generation now to pay more, because you can't really have privatisation fully. You will always have to have a two-tier thing, because, say, for instance, like myself, I've paid my national insurance fees all my life, so I am entitled to free health care. You can't stop that, can you? Because I've already paid in. So you're going to have to sort of draw a line somewhere along the line of those who get it free and those who have to pay.
Oh, I see, like when they changed the pension rules a few years ago.
That's right, exactly. I was just going to point that out myself, which was another con, but never mind. They may try doing that again, that females especially, because they're the ones who lost 6 years, I believe, not 2 years like the men. But these are the things that they're going to have to look at. But to me, it's all obvious. You had somebody on earlier giving comparisons about numbers, didn't you? For certain other jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Well, would you want something? I mentioned Davy Hume Park Hospital. That's in the borough of Trafford in Manchester. The population is 235,000. The amount of civil servants, 2,500. The Isle of Man population, 85,000 max. Civil servants, 2,500. If they want to save some money, surely if the borough traffic can manage with that many for two, we are 2/3 more, right? Or should I say, traffic can manage with 1/3 of the civil servants that we've got here. So why are we not? Why are we not cutting jobs there instead of creating them? I believe that this government has created 20% of jobs since they've been in.
Well, it's certainly gone up, put it that way.
Yeah, but it's madness. So, when they say they want to try and solve the problem, start at the common sense things. We've got too many people in government, too many people in civil service jobs. It's obvious if Trafford can run successfully, it's one of the most successful boroughs around Manchester, Trafford. But they've got 1/3 of the workforce that we have.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thanks for calling today, Eddie.
Yep, see you,
Good
mate.
to hear from you. And let's go to Bill, who's with us. Hi, Bill.
Hello there. My question was about the Tynwald statement by Laurie Hooper yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, I was listening to it on the radio, and my understanding on this is that the top 8, 9 or 10 consultants in total are paid £8 million a year. That means they're earning about £750,000 each. Now, I just want this clarified because I can hardly believe it. There was also someone said something like it's weighted to attract people to the Isle of Man. And I'm busy saying to myself, why are we weighting salaries to attract people to the NHS when the top rate of tax is 22%? It's about half what it would be in the NHS in England and Wales.
And so what did you say? There are about 10 top consultants earning...
In total, £8 million a year. In total. So they're all earning about £750,000, presumably. Now, I would like this clarified because, unfortunately, I haven't managed to re-listen to the Tynwald recording.
And what time did you hear that yesterday, Bill? What time was it?
Yesterday morning. I think it was just before lunchtime.
Okay.
I don't think it was the resignation part of his speech. He was responding to the suggestion by Chris Thomas of some remedy of putting a political person onto the board of Manx Care. And I think it was in that part of his contribution that he mentioned this. And I thought to myself, did I hear that right? Did I understand that correctly? And it also reflects down on the all other salaries as well. That there's a premium being paid to attract people to the Isle of Man, and when they get here, they're paying half the rate of tax that they would have paid in the UK. There shouldn't need to be a premium in the first place. It's contradictory in my thoughts.
Did you get any, because the suggestion by the Chief Minister was, bluntly, that Laurie Hooper was playing politics by talking about what he talked about yesterday. What was your feeling?
Well, to be honest, I was dipping in and out of the Tynwald thing, so I didn't hear it all, so I wouldn't like to comment totally. But I just don't understand it myself, and I hope I've misunderstood it, and someone can correct me on this programme.
Okay.
I got it wrong, but I'm 90% sure what I've just said is correct.
All right, appreciate it, Bill. Thanks for calling with that.
Thanks.
Good to hear from you. 24 minutes before 1. Did you hear that yesterday? So just before lunchtime yesterday, which I think was 1 o'clock, they broke for lunch at 1 o'clock yesterday. If you heard that particular conversation where Laurie Hooper was talking about the top 10 consultants earn £8 million between them. You're in the wrong job, aren't you? as far as your guests are concerned, this is about plastic yesterday. My view is if the powers that be put as much effort into clearing our seas from plastic, then we could begin getting on the right track. Education is a big help, but when everything we buy is covered in plastic, what chance do we have, says Gary in Ramsey. It was interesting. I thought we were getting somewhere yesterday talking to Bill Dale and Jerome Watts about plastic. And remember, Jerome is kind of poacher turned gamekeeper. He used to build yachts out of, the stuff with the BPA and everything and the plastics and the glass fibre and what have you. So he knows all about this. And the more research I do into it, I'd urge you to go and have a look at how much plastic is just shoved into the ocean every year, every month, every week, and every day. It's just going into the ocean. And it's not good for animals. It's not good for people. It's certainly not good for the environment. But what do we do about it? Well, you may remember during the COVID pandemic, governments around the world moved pretty quickly to get stuff organised. Do you think there is any sort of possibility, even the faintest possibility, that the governments worldwide could come together and ban plastic? We coped without plastic before we had plastic, didn't we? We had wood, we had glass, we had paper. Now, admittedly, there'd have to be some compromises, but is there any chance we could do that, or am I barking up the wrong tree? I'd love to know. Finland's got a very efficient bottle bank system, says Peter. I'd like to know also, I went down to the sea terminal to look at that plastic bottle recycler. It's still not working. A few years ago, we went on a mystery tour in Barbados. Went to a non-commercial beach and I picked up the remains of the previous night's barbecue polystyrene containers with some food in, bottles, and mentioned to a local in a nearby shed where we had a drink and mentioned the rubbish that had been left. He said, "Don't worry, the sea takes it away." There was great concern, says Sue, in the UK over pollution from energy from waste plants as being bad as it was from coal, so ours is cleaner than theirs. When I was at junior school, says AD, we had an anti-litter league. We got a badge and a certificate that stayed with me all my life. What about trying it here, not just for children, but for adults too? Again, Bill Dale was talking again about people who litter. And Bill's point was, until you make it, until you sanction it, until you put a fine on it, until the first half dozen people get fined for littering, those people who litter will continue to litter because, bluntly, they don't care. They just don't care. They're antisocial. They think it's not their problem. So do you think Bill's right? We need to start fining people, and particularly the people who fly tip. There was a great concern in the UK over pollution from energy from waste plants as being as bad as coal and what have you. Cologne and Budapest have machines in all the convenience stores where you deposit plastic bottles and get cash or a voucher back. Homeless people go around collecting the bottles and it keeps the cities clean and they get some money, says Sue. Well, again, this is something we could do ourselves. I mean, if we're going to show people that we care, how about everywhere on the Isle of Man gets one of those bottle machines and we do it? That'll at least get us on the news, wouldn't it? Would it cost that much money? Would it clean up the Isle of Man? And do you care?
Your plans for tomorrow can start today with an HSBC loan. Whether you're looking to start renovating, planning a tropical escape, or getting a new electric car. I said electric.
With an instant credit decision and quick access to funds, you can fast-track your plans with an HSBC loan. To find out more, visit our website or pop into branch and our friendly team will be happy to help. HSBC, opening up a world of opportunity. HSBC Bank PLC Isle of Man branch is regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority. Visit the HSBC website for terms and eligibility requirements.
Here at Q-Plus, we're not just blue, we're green. From smart boilers to heat pumps, Q-Plus supply products from the leading brands in renewable energy for a cleaner, greener home. So call into Q-Plus on Snugborough Trading Estate, the island's largest independent plumbing and heating merchants for trade and retail. Or call 673 131 to talk to our friendly experts about the latest cost-effective products in home heating and find out what we can do for you at Q-Plus.
It's the perfect time to plant spring bulbs and winter pansies, and there's a wide range available at Ramsey Garden Centre, plus a full range of garden essentials for indoor and out, including battery lights. Visit Ramsey Garden Centre, open 7 days a week.
Look forward to a cleaner, greener future by switching to gas with Isle of Man Energy. You'll get a future fuel-ready smart boiler with smart controls and 10 years servicing included. And on top of reducing your local carbon emissions with a state-of-the-art boiler and cleaner fuel, Isle of Man Energy will remove that dirty old oil tank, all from just £25.20 per month. Think greener and find out more today. Visit isleofmanenergy.im and click Switch to Gas.
We are an island nation and we have a tremendous maritime and nautical history and general connections with the sea. I'm Martin Perkins, and to reflect that fact, I've chosen some music that I think is appropriate to show how we are connected with the sea. So join me this evening at 5:30 to see my choice of music for all things maritime and nautical. And if you miss the programme, you can always catch up again on Manx Radio's podcast in the Island Life series.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
18 minutes before 1. Mr. Cannon's finally waking up to the need for proper leadership in health. Another one regarding the situation in politics at the moment. Get rid of the TT and put all that funding into health. Thank you, 376. Can't say it's ever going to happen, but what would you do about all the people who like the TT and the money it brings into the Isle of Man and the worldwide profile that it gives us? Daphne in Macclesfield, has the Isle of Man government already signed up for the wind turbines? And is that why the government's ignoring the majority of people who live on the Isle of Man who don't want the intrusive turbines? But want the people to think that they're listening to the people, says Daphne in Macclesfield. Is this the onshore one you're talking about, Daphne, or the offshore one that you'll be able to see very close up, 1,000 feet high? Isle of Man Energy deliver gas bottles, says Juan on 715. Is it true that HSS are closing? Well, obviously they won't be delivering the gas bottles, but who is going to be delivering gas bottles? If only the MHKs who complain about the government, says James, that's Mr. Glover, Johnny Farragher and the like, had ideas and alternatives of their own instead of criticising. I laughed when you reported and asked if they would take on a ministerial role as if they be genuinely considered with such little departmental experience, says James. Mr. Glover was asked, I think, if he'd take on a ministerial role, and he said he's not a nodding dog. D says Manx Care bank staff are not paid anywhere near the agency staff rates when they cover shifts. Bank staff are paid by the set pay band hourly rate, which is the same rates that substantive, permanently employed Manx Care staff are paid. So bank staff get the same, and bank staff are only covering uncovered shifts and have no sick pay or paid annual leave. Agency staff are brought over from the UK and are on around three times the hourly rate of those working alongside them in Manx Care. Why is this continuously reported incorrectly, says D. So bank staff get the same as everybody else. Agency staff get, well, is that absolutely spot on, D? If anybody knows the official pay rates, that'd be terrific to know. But if it is 3 times, bearing in mind the agency is going to be getting a slice, they'll be getting their wedge alongside. But and again, we come back to the recruitment problem on the Isle of Man. Nursing is a very transferable skill. Once upon a time, we had a nurses' home that we could use to house nurses. There is some accommodation, but nowhere near like there used to be. Amy, police don't do road closures. An individual applies for a closure to the DOI. It's the DOI that closes the road, so maybe the police were right not to know. I notice nobody's complaining about the steam packet. It's running very smoothly and on time, which makes you wonder why everything's running smoothly. KR Phil, that is. It's running... Well, it may be running smoothly because it's very retro sitting on Douglas Head, because look out and see the Ben McCree. And not for much longer, because I think it's later on this week, isn't it? Is it tomorrow that Manxman makes her appearance? Manxman's on the 8:45 boat tomorrow morning, 8:45 to Heysham. So Manxman is back, having done those docking trials at our new sea terminal in Liverpool. So if you're a Ben McCree fan, wave the Ben goodbye. She docks tomorrow morning at 6:30. When will she be back? Well, we don't know.
Hello, this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
As Gaelic Mera.
A Gaelic, the Manx Gaelic, Ginian Amera, the mother tongue of Ellan Vannin, the Isle of Man. You can catch up with more of Manx Radio's Manx language programmes in the weekly podcast Aber Rish. Say that again. Shene, that's the one.
How would you like to be remembered? Why not create a lasting memory by leaving a legacy donation to the Queen's Pier Restoration Trust? This would help our dedicated team to continue the restoration to save our historic landmark. Whether you can make a regular donation, leave a legacy donation, or request funeral donations in lieu of flowers, you will be remembered. To find out more, email qprt@manx.net or visit us on Facebook. This audio has been kindly sponsored by Paul Carey & Sons.
The Isle of Man has one of the best available wind resources in Europe. Manx Utilities wants to hear from you about the proposed Caervai onshore wind farm project, an exciting new initiative designed to harness our natural resources, which could generate more than a quarter of the island's electricity needs. Please join us at one of our 8 public consultations running this October. It's your chance to engage, ask questions, experience the VR simulation and meet our team. For details, visit manxutilities.im.
In beautiful Silverdale Glen, Ballasalla, find your perfect home away from home at Trail Lodge. If you're looking for a staycation this autumn, Trail Lodge is the perfect retreat with stays as short as 1 night available. So book now. Terms and conditions apply. Vouchers for Trail Lodge are also perfect for anniversaries, presents, corporate gifts and more. Ideal for surprise 2025 getaways. Trail Lodge, Silverdale Glen, Ballasalla. Visit traillodge.im or search Trail Lodge on Facebook.
Spice up your week when you join the Curry Club on the Dining Car. Running on selected Fridays throughout the season, gather family and friends to enjoy a rainbow of spices in a range of authentic homemade curries and a delicious selection of desserts on the return journey. It's a great experience for all curry lovers. For more information, visit rail.im or call 697 457.
Craving a blast from the past? Join me, Ruth Shimmin, for the 80s mixtape and relive the magic of the ultimate decade. From synth pop to rock anthems, I've got the lot right here every Sunday from 10 on your Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
It's 11 minutes before 1. Regarding healthcare assistants, my daughter's training in medicine. She applied to be a healthcare assistant over university holidays. Despite being able to do everything an HCA does, they still wanted her to go on a training course, which she couldn't do because she was at university. So she never got a temporary contract. There's lots of trainee nurses also in the Isle of Man. So why aren't these students being given a chance to work in the hospital, being healthcare assistants, and earn some money? Is this too much common sense, says 557. Thanks for pointing that out. Bank nurses get the same rate as I nurse on the bank. We are local agency nurses. They're paid differently, says Rose. Thank you, Rose. Good to hear from you. We need a health service, not a motorcycle race, says 376. I can't think that through, to be quite honest. I don't quite know what you mean. You genuinely mean we should get rid of the TT and put all the money. Well, what about, where do you stop? What do you say then? That the government supports lots and lots of things, and bearing in mind the TT brings in a fortune, not least all the people who do homestay who get all that tax-free cash. I don't quite know where that thinking takes us, 376. Just give me more than a sentence, would you? Here's a couple of facts from somebody who's educated in energy from waste plants. Says 297. Our EFW, energy from waste plant, incinerator to you and me, and other EFWs in the UK have strict emissions limits. Mostly what you see coming out of the stack is water vapour. People need to be educated in these things before spreading rumours. Also saying that we're as bad as coal stations is false. One bonfire lit on Peel Beach or Douglas on bonfire night gives off more emissions than the energy from waste plant does in an entire year, says the energy from waste plant. 297, thank you. I love the Isle of Man, says Daphne, and I have a problem with coming to terms with the fact that people want... You didn't finish the message, Daphne. Everything is paper bags now, not plastic. Chemists have paper bags. That's stupid walking through town in pouring rain because the bags break and medications go everywhere. What about the trees? Paper's made from trees. And as for Manx Care, the mental health have got too many staff sitting doing nothing. We never had this in the 60s and 70s, says Anna. Morna got lots of messages in today. I'll try and get through most of them. Ask the people if they want anything Alf is doing. He doesn't own the Isle of Man, says Baz. Yes, Baz, but he is Chief Minister. He was voted in as an MHK, and the consensus was he should be Chief Minister. It's not something that we can just change like that. It may want to, you may think it will be advisable, but it's not. There is an element of form to how the politics works in the Isle of Man. But anyway, Julian's got a point. So do these other companies, but really microplastics. The seas are in a worse state, says 122. It'll be our 2 generations that will moan by them. It's the fact of needing cheaper electricity that's already available now because there's a war going on. They're thinking we need massive wind farms to cope with the demands, but it's more like panic buying on your credit card without telling you you've needed it yet. And another 15,000 or their families will pay for it, says 122. I think I got that. Thanks for yesterday as well. I got a lot of great feedback. Bill Dale dropped me a note in. Thank you, Bill. A lot of great feedback, much appreciated. And you can buy a reverse vending machine for less than £3,000. How about that? 3,000. Maybe we can find some sponsors for a handful of reverse vending machines outside the supermarkets. Thank you, Bill. Good to hear from you. And by the way, Beachbuddies' website is Beachbuddies, all one word, all lowercase, beachbuddies.org.im. beachbuddies.org.im. And again, I think it always bears restatement that Beach Buddies, I think we take it for granted now. It happens every Sunday. People go and pick up litter from a beach. It sounds so simple. But it started with Bill walking along a beach, taking the dog for a walk and picking up rubbish. And then another piece and another piece and another piece. How many is it now? It's something like, I think it's well over 20,000 people have taken part in Beach Buddies and do so every week and enjoy it. beachbuddies.org.im. Here's a message in that just says, sorry, Si, I don't quite understand that one. I can understand most things, but I can't quite understand that. Milan's been recycling plastic bottles for at least 41 years. That's when I first visited friends there, and I still do it. Also, Southern Ireland does it too. You get your money back. They say, I just want to bring something to your attention, and this is regarding, the parking suspension. That's it. The parking suspension in Victoria Street. Somebody's been asking me about this parking suspension. It's been postponed after a cafe on the route said it wasn't consulted. The owners of Fork It said they arrived yesterday morning to find the spaces blocked off by cones. The parking suspension relates to the nearby Villiers Square redevelopment. The DOI said the key issue is the long-term suspension of the bus stop on Loch Prom, as the alternative arrangement is for buses to stop in Victoria Street instead. The suspension will allow one bus to pass another, the one that's waiting. An agreement's been reached to postpone that suspension and monitor the effect that this has on congestion in Douglas city centre. NK Construction say letters were sent out beforehand, but the cafe didn't receive the correspondence. So that's that situation. Thank you. I think it was Terry who was asking about that. And another message in just said, my bus was cancelled last night. We could have only found out about this by Facebook. Why don't they have those dot matrix signs that you see in other places that they'll actually tell you when the bus is coming, or if indeed it how long it's going to be, or if it is going to be missing. Thank you, Pammy, on 505. Our glass bottles go into making concrete blocks. Our recycling of glass is very good. I think it goes to Ballahara Quarry. Mr. Corlett's company deals with it. So glass is fine on the Isle of Man. We have the way to recycle glass on the Isle of Man. Our problem on the Isle of Man with recycling is plastic. We have nowhere on the Isle of Man that will recycle plastic, so we have to clean it, press it, bale it, and send it away. Or we burn it. Student nurses do get placements on wards, though they're undertaking degree courses, so most time it's classroom work, not working as healthcare assistants. Any news when the Tesco store in Peel is due to open? It's been closed since June the 29th, says 223. I was stunned to hear this week that there's never been a specification and costing time done for procedures at the hospital. How, if this has never been done, how are the budgets worked out? Time the government did something about it. Thank you, 557. That's it. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Back tomorrow.
WINT.